You know, I haven't done a review recently, in about a week, so let's figure out which game to do. Could do Undertale, but I don't want to be put on another list. I don't want to do any of those Switch games. Maybe XCOM, Valkyria Chronicles. Nah, I've already done enough of that. Don't care about all of those. The Last of Us 2, I haven't... Or The Last of Us, I'm gonna do when The Last of Us 2 comes out. And the rest of these I've either already done or no. What's this? Can I throw this one in the trash can? Alright. And what's this? Oh, lovely. More garbage. Take these to the garbage. Perfect. Where they belong. Persona 5 The Royal, the expanded version of Persona 5. The best-selling game in the best-selling series of the Persona series of games. That was just poorly written by me. Is in fact the Persona 5, but expanded upon. Hi there, my name is Potatoes953, and welcome back to my channel, where I just keep ruining my credibility within the Persona community by speaking bad about Persona 5. I've gone on record saying that I am not a fan of the original version of this game. Does this expanded version fix any of the things I disliked about this Persona 5? Does it fix the major pacing or thematic issues? Do I think this game... or do I like this game more than others in the franchise? No. No, it fucking doesn't. Over the course of this very long video, I will answer all of these plus more. This video is going to be separated out into 3 distinct categories: my general review, my review of the story, and whilst comparing it to other games in the series and talking about it as a fan, and me talking about the fan base of the series. Please note, I will go over story spoilers, but if I'm smart, which I'm not, I will have a spoiler warning before that segment. So, without delaying the video any further, let us begin my honest review of Persona 5 The Royal. To start off, we are going with the actual main review of this game. How the basic story goes, without going into any spoilers, is that you play as Joker, or Akira, or whatever you damn well please to name the main character, a transfer student on probation for an alleged assault. After moving from the countryside to the megacity of Tokyo, as you go to school, make friends, and fight monsters in another world. One of those things is not like the others. The general gameplay is going to school, hanging out with your confidants, or as I will hereby be calling them, social links, and going into dungeons to change the hearts of quote-unquote rotten adults in the shitty world you live in. Here's a challenge for any of you above the age of 21. Take a shot every time anyone says rotten adults, shitty adults, or synonyms for any of those terms. As you go through the long and linear story, to which you have no control over, you will be forced into quote-unquote palaces, this game's name for dungeons, where you will be forced to traverse through the puzzle-like mazes of 9 distinct dungeons, based on the 7 deadly sins. Wait, you said 9, not 7. Yes, because there's 2 other dungeons that are detached from the themes of the 7 deadly sins, but that's beside the point. As you go through these dungeons, you will be meeting and changing the hearts of mostly evil, sometimes not, people. In my opinion, there are only 3 dungeons that I actually liked due to their gimmicks, themes, or because I truly thought these people needed to change. As you go through there is a side dungeon called Mementos, which may seem optional, but then at first, and then 70 hours in, you find out that it was totally not optional, and you're forced to go through the whole fucking thing in order to get any of the good endings, to which there are 2. Oh yeah, did I mention that there are 6 separate endings that all come down to a conversation 50 hours in that references a conversation 40 hours ago? And overall is very poorly handled. As you go through the game, you quickly figure out that it is a JRPG mixed with a visual novel, as all Persona games since Persona 3 have done. Persona 5 The Royal is all about time management, as you have deadlines to where you get a game over due to missing the time span required to beat the dungeon. In the game, you will be juggling your social links, small enclosed stories based on side characters, upgrading your social stats, guts, intelligence, proficiency, charm, and kindness, which allow you to access more social links, and doing the dungeon. Now, that seems complicated, but when you're actually playing the game, everything feels really natural. You can do 2 things every day during two time periods, after school and evening. These things include but are not limited to hanging out with friends, ordering a maid to make you food, reading a book, dying in a hot bath, eating a giant fucking burger, making coffee to make Coffee Dad love you. Or, of course, you can go into the dungeon, which will sap your strength for the day and force you to do something within Cafe LeBlanc. Now, why do I not hold this game as high as other games in the series, or hell, even other RPGs like Fallout or Valkyria Chronicles? No joke, I love that game so much, as you could probably tell just by looking at my channel. Well, there are a few reasons. One being the story, which, like I said, I'll go over later. But another reason is just the boring design. Now, you may be saying, Potatoes, you've said on many occasions that Persona 4 Golden is your favorite game ever, and it arguably has the most boring battle system, so why call Persona 5's design boring? Now, I will give you this. Persona 5 has the best UI ever made. Sue me. However, this with the upgraded visuals and UI, it doesn't do anything with it. The strategy is always the same with these games. Find the weakness and then all-out attack. Persona 5 could have done so much more with the guns added and whatnot, but it doesn't. Bosses feel the exact same, and it doesn't help that most of them just feel like, a super move that makes you that needs a turn to charge up. Okay, and then proceed to block with everyone. Literally, the only boss I remember fondly is the Piggytron because it's fucking hilarious. Furthermore, the game is just way too easy, even on hard mode, which is harder than Merciless. It's a cakewalk. The only boss that gave me any trouble was the final boss. The final one was the new one, which I was totally under-leveled for, and at that point, I was just done with the game, so I just grinded to level 99 in Mementos to beat him easily. Persona 1, 2, and 3 are brutally difficult, and Persona 4 is fairly hard. It took me multiple attempts to beat every boss. With Persona 5, The Royal, even with the tweaked bosses, it still was either I beat him on my first try or without even thinking about it. With the case of the final boss, I was banging my head on a brick wall until I got fed up. Until I got fed up with it and just grinded to level 99. And even that pissed me off because because it only took me about an hour to level up my whole party to max level, which pisses me off because a grinding session didn't actually feel rewarding, unlike, again, Persona 3 or 4, where it takes about a half an hour to grind one level. The only satisfaction I got was being able, from beating this game, was the fact that I could finally do this review. Now, I mentioned that Persona 5 The Royal is an expanded version of Persona 5, so let's go over some of the new stuff. There are 3 new characters who are, to put it simply, are the best written characters in the game. Kasumi adds quite a bit to the plot, seeing as she's a new party member. Maruki is the very well written character who's core to the new content. Furthermore, they fleshed out Akechi's character with his own social link, separate from the plot. They also added a new dungeon to the game, which, sorry if this offends me, is lame. They also added a whole new district to Tokyo, which adds a darts and billiards place, which allows you to get social link points with the whole party by playing pool and upping your technical scores, which just makes it way too easy. And playing darts, a minigame that feels like a Wii Play minigame, which levels up your baton passes, which just makes the game even easier again. And this is basically it, other than the tweaked bosses that I mentioned before. The soundtrack to this game is amazing. They added tracks and remixes written by Lotus Juice, which only makes it better. Takeover is an amazing battle theme, and Colors Flying High's remix is so good. Man, Benjamin Franklin, you should have enlisted the help of Lotus Juice sooner, because because I'm quoting Mother's Basement here. Lotus Juice makes everything better. But no matter how much I love this soundtrack, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have some gross bits. There, like the fact that Beneath the Mask always plays at night, which gets extremely annoying, and I swear to God, Takeover shows up more than Last Surprise, rather than the 50-50 chance that it should be, like in P4. The soundtrack is one of the best I've ever listened to in a video game, and if you have the chance, absolutely listen to it. Overall, I gave the base game, the base Persona 5 an 8 out of 10, with hopes that the new stuff would make me like it more than Persona 3, and it didn't. Overall, I think I'd give Persona 5 The Royal an 8.5 out of 10. If you already have, if you've already owned the base game, I'd still grab it, because the new stuff it adds is significant enough to grab it for the $60 price tag, which is soon to be $20 due to player's choice. And it is definitely enough to come back for a second or third time. And this is coming from a guy who platinumed the game on his first playthrough. Because it was an easy game to platinum, and it's my first platinum trophy on PlayStation, so you can give me that. So yeah, just absolutely grab this game if you would like, if you want to play this game, if you haven't played this game, and if you've already played this game, it's still worth the money. So yeah. Okay, so now that the main review is done, I'm going into spoilers and my thoughts as a fan of this series. As I mentioned before, I dislike this game comparatively to the rest of the series. It truly feels like a step down in the storytelling and characters from Persona 4 Golden. Furthermore, it feels like a step down thematically from the previous titles. In this segment, I will be explaining myself for thinking this and going into spoiler territory, so if you haven't played the game yet, feel free to leave now. Thank you for watching to this point in the video. Now that all those people are out of the way, let's begin my review as a fan. The story is absolutely terrible comparatively to Persona 3, or hell, even Persona 4. The story is all over the place when it comes to pacing, themes, and quality, to the point where it really isn't that great. The characters are also all over the place, and most of them don't feel like people, whether it's due to screen time or just poorly being integrated into the story. The characters do not grow whatsoever throughout the 100-hour game playtime. The only one that really has any sense of change is Kasumi, because she isn't even who she claims to be, and has to accept that. Does that sound familiar? That's right, Persona 4, because it's the exact same story, the stories that most of the characters have to go through in that game, because get this, Persona 4 has the best characters. It feels like the writers took P4 and P3 and what they had learned from those games and threw them out saying we don't need them. One thing that I think that they should do for Persona 6 is having the team members gain their ultimate persona through the story, because that actually shows their growth directly through the plot. Persona 5, in Persona 5, you need to do their social links in order to see that kind of change. And that's all Persona 4's fault, but at least in that game, they still grow. If you were to say max out Ryuji's social link, you see him mature from this ascension-seeking asshole into a guy who is somber and isn't looking for recognition, and then you go back to the main story and he's just still that asshat, comparatively to Yosuke in Persona 4, who starts the game as the typical best friend character, who wants to be recognized by his peers and just simply can't because they can't connect to him. By the end of the game, he's a guy who's just trying to protect the few things that he has because he never wants to lose those things again after losing everything he knew just at the start of the game. Continuing with the characters, the main character, what the fuck did they do to you? Okay, so for one thing, he speaks more than just summoning his persona. He says shit like "see ya" and things like that, which gives him a definite personality, which is something that in a game being used as an escapist RPG failed me. I couldn't project myself onto this character like I could with the blank slates in Persona 4 and 3. I was given when I was given dialogue options, I didn't feel like I didn't choose what I would say, rather what he would say. Now I know the comments now. If you want to project yourself onto a character, then go play a Western RPG. But there's the thing. I think the writers failed in that respect, to the point where I was able to replicate Joker's character in Fallout fucking 4. Which, mind you, does a better job projecting letting you project yourself onto the character, even though he or she is voiced and has a pre-existing backstory. Joker is a smug, confident asshole who will say what he thinks when he thinks it, which is a complete opposite of myself. So it was way harder to project myself onto him comparatively to Persona 4's, who still has a definite personality, mind you, but you can still choose to make him yourself. If you do so, please. Because of the blank slate nature of him. And it honestly makes more sense for people to gravitate towards him rather than this smug ass. I don't think that the story is very good. It feels like a fucking Scooby-Doo episode. And Scooby-Doo, sure, has its moments, but the general format of an episode isn't very great. It feels like a Universal Studios ride in which you have no control over the story, how the story goes, then a series of choices 50 hours in which you have to pick the correct ones or to not literally be killed. But the thing is that the game doesn't give you any context clues as to which option is the correct one. And when I projected myself onto the MC, I got the bad ending until I just decided fuck it and pulled out a guide. One of the things that I like in media, shows, and movies, media is shows, movies, or games, that show the protagonists creating a plan and executing it, which is why I love Death Note so much. And to be perfectly honest, I expected this game to be like that, seeing as it would be the perfect idea, seeing as it's a game about thieves. But it doesn't. It doesn't actually show the plan as it's getting concocted, just being executed. Also, the game's themes could have been used way better. The game's theme is rebellion, which could have and should have been better executed better, because the story doesn't actually know what it wants to be. The story doesn't know if it wants to be a social sim, a dungeon crawler, or an action game with turn-based systems, rather than the dungeon crawler a dungeon crawler with social sim elements. So the game's themes and gameplay feel fragmented. Now, Persona 5's defenders will defend it by showing off the turn-based combat and the dungeon design, which as if they would be content with the game just being one large dungeon in which you play, which the game is playing like a fucking Resident Evil game. When no, they wouldn't. Which is evident by the fact that with Persona Q2's mixed reviews. Now we need to talk about the new dungeon because it's the best thing, one of the best things in the series. If you're still here and you don't want spoilers, leave. Maruki's dungeon is and the twist that Kasumi is actually her dead sister tells you, that she tells you about is great. However, I feel that they feel out of place with the rest of this poorly written game, and don't fit with the themes of the rest of the game's story. And the much of the story that this game is based on, LeBlanc's books from the early 1900s. Suddenly you're faced with stuff from H.P. Lovecraft's short stories. Compare that to Persona 4 Golden's added dungeon, which still fits with the themes and story of the rest of the game. Marie is trying to die because she can't accept who she really is, before and her realizing in the final moments that she was wrong and who she is isn't based on the past, but rather is all about the present. The dungeon is heartbreaking and truly did change my own perspective on the world. Maruki's dungeon is all about sorrow, and trying to pick yourself up from being knocked down. But he doesn't learn that lesson. It literally takes, and literally needs to be in a fist fight to understand that. Now, my final point is the ending, and how it failed at finishing the narrative and felt like a slap to the face to me as a longtime fan of the series. The point is more so directed at Persona 5 The Royal, but it also applies to the base game. The ending of the game is the protagonist going home. However, the characters don't act like it's the end. It doesn't feel like the end of the hero's journey, more like see you in a month, because spin-offs. It feels like the writers were writing with the idea of continuing the story with shit spin-offs, like Scramble. Compare this to Persona 3. Persona 3 is a retelling of Orpheus's myth from Greek mythology. So if you know that story, you know how it will end with Orpheus, or his projection in the game, the protagonist, dying. But it still felt heartbreaking that nobody except Aegis remembers him until he's already gone. And even without playing through the answer, it still feels fulfilling and satisfying. The game feels like it's come full circle, and it's truly the end of this character and his hero's journey. And again, I'm going back to Persona 4, and as the characters are saying goodbye to their closest friend, as if it is the last time they're going to see him. And then in the epilogue, when they're meeting up, they're saying, we're still here for you and we're never going to forget you. Those games feel like the actual end to the story of those protagonists. Which, like it's the end of his contract and that it's the end for him. Persona 5 The Royal doesn't do that. It doesn't feel like the end for the man you've played as for an upwards of 120 hours. And especially Persona 5 The Royal's ending, where he doesn't even spend time with his friends, but rather a man who we were fighting a mere half hour ago. The next thing I should talk about is the game's treatment of a heavy topic like death. It treats it with so much disrespect, and if it's anyone's blame, it should be on Persona 4, but at least with that fake-out death, it is a real phenomenon. With P5R, every single death is a fake-out one. Even Akechi's, because he comes back in the post-credits scene. The only thing that truly dies is my faith in the series. It treats such a heavy topic like that, as if it's something to take with as if it's something that didn't take a whole game for 6 people, a dog and a robot, to figure out. The thing about Persona 3 and 4 is that it left me rethinking my life and the world and the whole as a whole. Persona 5 and in turn the Royal doesn't do that. It just confirms my belief that everyone in power really only cares about themselves and nothing more. Next point I would like to talk about in this section is how Persona 5 the Royal, and to be quite frankly honest, Atlus treats its legacy to this soon-to-be 25-year-long running franchise series, and / franchise. It treats the series history like it deserves to be thrown in a dumpster and lit on fire. Persona 5 the Royal adds a totally optional challenge battles, and with those, on day one, they put out a DLC called Battle Bundle for $10. That adds a grand total of 2 challenge battles with the Protect, and 3, it adds a grand total of 5 challenge battles, 3 of which are just generic enemies, and 2 of which are the protagonists of Persona 3 and 4. Not 1 and 2, just 3 and 4. That's kind of stupid and raw. But that is the extent that Atlus is willing to send love to their longtime fans, other than cosmetics and a poster of Rise. Persona Q2 and 3 and Persona 3 Dancing in Moonlight were steps in the right direction, and Persona 5 the Royal feels like 10 steps back. People have been begging for re-releases of Persona 2, 3, and 4 for years on modern platforms. And they don't listen. Even though so many people want to play these games legally in the West, on modern platforms, and here in the West, or anywhere, to be frankly honest. And the biggest slap to the face for me was them killing off Igor in the Royal. My friend Soul's Randomness said that they did it out of respect for the voice actor who died before the recording of P5, but they didn't really need to do that, seeing as they got a new voice actor to do their job. So killing him off, even though he was the only one to show up in all Persona games, felt heartbreaking for me. So killing him off felt like Atlus killing off a part of the identity of Persona. And the thing is that Persona 5, the Royal, truly feels like Persona losing its identity. As a fan of the series, I would give this game a 5 out of 10. It didn't do enough to fix the problems with with the base game I had. And it felt like Atlus was just looking to get more short-time fans into the series by having Joker appear in Smash, and making him making the game newcomer friendly, which is fine. The more people interested in the series, the better. But what they did to Persona's legacy felt like Atlus punching me in the stomach and saying, "We don't care about you, our most loyal fans. We only care about those who wanted the game because Joker is in Smash," which in my opinion shouldn't have been the case. Now, if you're interested in the fan base, there is a great guy by a guy named Ramses on YouTube, all about it, and I'll link that in the description. But here are my opinions on this autistic and cancerous fandom that I unfortunately have to be a part of. This is going to be a way shorter segment. I thought I should still talk about it in this video. By the way, if you end up a fan of this series, avoid taking part in anything connected to this fandom, because they are absolutely some of the most cancerous and toxic people that we might even need to get the bloody EPA to clean it up. I started the game in 2018. Now, some may call me a Persona 5 baby, but in reality, I started playing with Persona 4 Golden, so stop typing. Now, the fandom can be split into 3 distinct groups. The longtime fans that look at each game with a critical eye and you could probably see that I have been doing that throughout the video and are willing to listen to other people's opinions. The Persona 5 babies who got introduced to the series through Persona 5, and only really have played that game, so obviously it's the best one, right? And the Smash Brothers babies, who who joined the fandom just to beg for a Switch port and haven't actually played any of the games, and like to talk about shit they've never experienced. All of these groups are toxic to each other and outsiders, along with, just to put it simply, acting like they're uncivil apes because they have Twitter. In this segment, I will go over each of these factions and explain why they are all autistic in their own special way. First up to the bat, we have the longtime fans, who are the least stupid. They are far, far more lax because they have played most or all of the games, and are able to look at each of them with a critical eye and understand each other's opinions on which game is the best. And really, the only thing they want is to be able to play these games again on modern generation consoles, because they either want to play them again, or they want others to play them. Personally, I want an HD collection of the games to be released on for next gen. That would be awesome, but even if they are just re-released on something other than a bloody handheld nobody but me and Fred down the street own, that would be nice. Then we have the Persona 5 babies, who really have only played Persona 5, so they think that it's the best in the series, because of course they do. So when there is a Persona 3 versus 4 debate going on, they will butt in and change the debate to explaining how Persona 5 is not the best in the series. They, along with the Smash babies, are the ones being the most loud and obnoxious about a Switch port, with shit like the hashtag Break Free Persona thing that happened late last year after an IGN misinterpreted a translated statement by an Alice executive. And then we have the Smash babies, which are, to put it simply, degenerates. They have only played Joker and Smash Brothers. Some may have watched the anime, but most are the most autistic things ever. They are the people on Twitter screaming into the void about a Switch port, and because they want to play the game, which of course they haven't played. They also don't seem to know anything about other Persona know that there are other Persona games other than Persona 5 and Q2. So they will butt in defending the idiots defending Persona 5. That was a joke. You can think as you feel, but I will not agree with you. Fanbase has always been some of the most toxic out there. However, I think that it really got worse with Persona 5 and in turn Persona 5 the Royal, because of how many fans it added. Also, guys, can we stop with the waifu wars? It's stupid. You can play how you want, and no, there is no quote-unquote canon romance for the protagonist. So stop making that an argument, too. It's stupid and pointless. Anyways, just stop being asses to each other online. Because if you disagree with each other, you can always just have a civil debate. But as soon as you start throwing insults out, or calling each other derogatory terms, your argument no longer becomes valid, because you have refused to be civil about it. That's just how it works, guys. Just please stop being asses to each other. Overall, I think Persona 5 The Royal is still a very solid game, and definitely worth the $60 price tag. No, you should not pay the nearly $300 price tag with all the DLC out in Japan, because all of that shit is cosmetic, and the sheer fact that there is that much really worries me. Go check out my video about DLC for that one. But if you made it this far into the video, thank you for spending your time listening to me ramble on and on about this game, because it truly is one of the best games I've played so far this year. And I've been playing some really good games this year, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please click the like button in this video, and if you really liked it, make sure to subscribe for more garbage. Stay safe out there, guys, and of course, have a fantastic day and a fantastic life. Goodbye.
I also remembered something humans like to say to each other. Good job.